the organization. We have around 5 base camps. These are safe spaces where children come and have fun. So in the base camps, they are spreading in a number of informal settlements in the county. And we are stretching now, using the base camp model, we are also stretching now to involve the churches, where we are using now the churches as in partnerships, and they are helping us run what we call recovery groups, something almost similar to self-help, where we take them also through the 12 steps of recovery. We also have advocacy, and this is an area that we have great interest in as an organization. We support these schools, adopt the guidelines on prevention and management of alcohol in schools, but apart from that, we also work with NACADA and other stakeholders in ensuring that policy advocacy reaches its intended goal. But most importantly, we have a research and resource center where I head, and this is where we document evidences from the field. This is where we do our researches. This is the area where all the things that come from the field, we write reports, the success stories, we document them in this research center. And I head that center. It's a good center, and one day if you pass by, you can always visit us. Just for a start, I say that alcohol, as the other presenters also said, it has claimed 3.6 million lives per year according to World Health reports. And this number is trend. The trend is increasing. If you look there, that it was starting in 2010, and you can see the trend, how the trend has been increasing. The fear is, if we don't do something about this, it will continue increasing. In Africa alone, if you look at per capita consumption of alcohol, if I just dig deeper, you'll realize that in Uganda, around 12.1 as per capita consumption of alcohol. What that means, that one person approximately consumes around 12 liters of alcohol in a year. You can imagine that situation. And we have this growing across countries in Africa. We have Kenya is at 4.3 liters, Nigeria 10.5, South Africa, we have other members from South Africa here, is at 11.4. So this is what we are facing as a continent and as the world. But if I come home in Kenya, 1 in 6 people, a youth or an adult, if I talk from 15 to 65 years, is abusing drug. And the local, according to NACADA reports, there's increasing production of illicit brews that is picking up. The other time, we had the alcohol industry even campaigning more on this. So they're even making the situation worse. So that is what we are facing as we are here. So we had an evaluation that we did to our model, just to check if our model is different, if our model is giving better results that are not elsewhere. Remember this, we are working in the informal settlements, and in the background, we realized a number of studies that has not been done in informal settlements. More importantly, this is a longitudinal study, where we started from 2024 to 2025. So we are able to compare children that we are working with in the program and a control group of these children, so that we see the difference, if the difference is really there. So one of the goals that we had was just to check if this model is effective. Another goal of this evaluation was also to check whether LSE, or life skill education, has an impact on substance abuse, has an impact on peer resistance, has an impact on self-esteem among this group of children. So methodology, I said this study started in 2024, where we used 650 children that are in our program, and another 650 that were a control group. We used, this study was done in 32 schools in Kisumu County, and we collected data using the baseline. We did a baseline in 2024. So after the baseline in 2024, we came now, and this year again we did a baseline, an end line in 2025, so that we compare both teams. The analysis involved regression analysis. We are also able to predict if this model can yield more results into the future. And most importantly, we did a dignity empowerment analysis of our model findings. The treatment and control group was statistically comparable at baseline. So you'll realize that at baseline, they were more or less the same, both groups. When you talk about the age, averagely the age was around 13 years. When you talk about the gender, they have for the female. So when I talk of gender for female is 51, it means for the male is 49. Then for control group, it was a 50-50. So when you go to household income, we were also interested in, could this be a cause of increased consumption of alcohol? So from baseline, we realized that a number of these children, the families were earning between 10,000 to around 20,000. On substance use, it was around 14% and 15%. So at baseline, if you look at the psychosocial indices, you realize that these children were more or less in the same position of harm. On interpersonal skills, for example, you realize that the treatment group scored 2.85, the other group scored 2.83. It means that these children, they had interpersonal skills, yes, but they were only able to exercise them or put them in practice once in a while. When you look at decision-making skills for these children, both groups, according to the dignity analysis, came at 2.75 and 2.74. This reflects limited use of good decision-making strategies. They didn't apply it regularly. We also looked at community mindset of these children when we were starting, and the scores was around 2.9 and 2.88 for the control group and for the treatment group. And so this shows a little awareness and positive behavior towards others in their community. So after the intervention now, we checked after the intervention. So the descriptive statistics on LSE participants, they scored 4.3, meaning they use skills like self-confidence, critical thinking, and problem solving, often or almost always. But for non-participants, unfortunately, they were at 4.1, meaning yes, they were exercising these skills, but they were only doing it once in a while. Then we also did regression now to check on importance of LSE on these psychosocial indices. So the first one was on substance abuse. And we realized that involvement in LSE had a 72% positive impact on substance abuse reduction. The same was on resilience at 57%. Criminal behavior was reducing at 48%. Peer pressure at 47%. And they were able to make a decision at a 61% indicator. Still on communication, teamwork, and responsibility, the LSE team, they scored 4.3, meaning they communicate well, collaborate effectively, and take responsibility in group situations. Unlike the other team, that showed that they struggle more with teamwork, communication, and shared responsibility. These findings illustrate that the LSE program does not only build internal strengths, such as confidence and critical thinking, but also helps children interact better with others. Lastly, we looked at sustainability aspect using the dignity empowerment indicators. So, under cultural awareness, the LSE participants demonstrated a strong understanding and respect for cultural differences. This prepares them to interact positively with the diverse communities. On creativity and innovation, they were more capable for generating new ideas. And those ideas, if you come to the base camps now, you'll find them now putting them on the walls, doing them themselves. So you realize new ideas are coming up from these children due to this LSC that they are going through. We talked about technology, so there's responsible digital participation that we are having. And now under the responsible digital participation, we train these children on even ethical advertisement. Should companies advertise alcohol? And that's led to the poster we have just behind you. So that poster was done by one of us, I call Alvina Tieno. She did that analysis also through the center using these same children. So there's responsible digital participation. Let's give her a clap for that. So while LSC participants scored above 4.3, they practiced these skills frequently. Non-participants scored around 2.1, indicating limited application. In conclusion, by equipping learners, and I took consent for this photo, for those who know what I'm saying, so that you don't put the director to sit. So by equipping learners as peer educators and life skill ambassadors, Blue Cross Kenya has shown that children are not merely beneficiaries of change, but active agents of prevention and resilience. The evidence gathered provides a strong foundation for scaling up LSC interventions across schools in Kenya and beyond, reinforcing the role of education as a powerful tool for sustainable social transformation. Recommendations. I recommend that we need to strengthen youth-centered prevention models by recognizing young people as active change agents rather than passive beneficiaries. We need to amplify youth voices in policy and advocacy by creating regional and national youth forums where adolescents can influence prevention policies, ensuring that youth perspectives shape sustainable prevention agendas. We need to invest in longitudinal learning and knowledge sharing by encouraging continuous learning exchanges between African and Asian countries to document best practices, measure long-term outcomes, and inspire innovation in prevention approaches. And lastly, we need to integrate mental health and psychosocial support by strengthening prevention programs, by embedding psychosocial care and stress management, training to address the root causes of vulnerability and risk-taking among youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Don Paul. We appreciate the presentation. When you come to a summit like this, as much as we're going to listen to these presentations, we're going to listen to the keynote speeches. It is very important for us to think, how are we going to collaborate? So Blue Cross has presented a beautiful study that they've been doing in Kenyan schools. And by virtue of you being here, means you have some interest in dealing with the youth and the young children. So this is where you find Blue Cross Kenya. They've done a poster. Please have a look. Make sure you go through it. They're right here. Please make an effort to talk to them. We never know, next Afri-Asia, you might be presenting as 2 organizations or 3 organizations coming together. So once again, a big round of applause for him. Our second presenter, Dr. Charity Waithima, is going to talk about life skills enhancement for psychoactive substances use reduction among school-going adolescents in Kenya. Dr. Charity, the time is yours now.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, as my predecessor has presented, I think we all are aware that some of the things that have been tried in helping the young people to reduce or to prevent substance use has not been forthcoming. And therefore, this is a study that I want to do some disclosure. I carried out this study in 2016, and why am I presenting it here? Because I have seen there is renewed reverence for the topic and data, because there are issues in our contemporary context that require us to continue using life skills, as Blue Cross Kenya has talked about. And therefore, I decided to disseminate this so that the findings probably could be implemented by those of us who are dealing with young people. And also, we check what I had found out within that period compared to what, like he has presented, has come up after the COVID 2019. And I don't need to repeat this. Everybody is saying that substance use among the adolescents has remained high, and it's an area of concern. We all know that several interventions have been put, and in the morning we were talking about it, criminalizing, and when it comes to the school system, because my study was among students, adolescents in high schools, the schools will do everything, they will check, they will do everything, but all these things are not working, and they are not successful, and therefore I have been out there empowering young people or adolescents to say no to substance use, not because we threaten them, not because they know that there is a teacher at the gate, not because they know that somebody is coming to check their boxes in the dormitory or their classroom, but because they have the power to say no to substance use. We know, all of us who are Kenyans, that life skills is embedded in our curriculum, both in the 844 and the CBE, which is our current curriculum that we are following. But when we look at what is in the syllabus, from KICD, you will find that the life skills are generic. They have not been tailored towards substance use. Yes, substance use has become a pandemic in our environment. And therefore, as I looked at what was happening in other parts of the world, we know that life skills have been used in 50 states in the US and over 30 other countries that have been using life skills. And I'm so grateful that NACADA was here and Blue Cross is also doing it. We have started using life skills in our context in order for us to be able to prevent and to be able to reduce substance use among our adolescents. Why did I go to the field? I simply wanted to establish the substance use threats among school-going adolescents in rural Kenya and also assess the effectiveness of life skills enhancement. Why did I call it enhancement? Because I know our school system has a life skills curriculum, but I needed to enhance them in order for them to be tailored towards substance use prevention. The theoretical underpinnings of my study was based on, we all know the Badura, the social learning theory, because we know these children are living within an environment and within a community. And we all know in the communities where we come from, we are having a lot of adults. I'm also a mental health consultant. I counsel people, I'm a psychotherapist. And parents will come, especially parents from 40 years and below. They're coming for therapy, and some of them are using marijuana that we were talking about here. As married couples, a husband and a wife come and they say they use marijuana in front of their children. And therefore, the social learning theory was very critical for me. And then the problem behavior theory by Jessa and Jessa. And you know that the problem behavior theory deals with the person, it deals with the environment, and it deals with how a problem behavior can escalate more problem behaviors. My study was a quasi-experimental. That was what I did. I used a quantitative approach. My sample size was 1,010 participants, and mainly I used Form 2s and 3s in rural high schools in one of the sub-counties in Nyeri. I had 454 in the experimental group, and then I had 556 in the control group. Of course, to get the county wards and to get to the schools, I had to use different methods of sampling. I used 5 life skills. I know that Blue Cross has also talked about the life skills they use. And one of the life skills I used was self-awareness. This is very critical in helping the young people understand, why should I not take drugs? Just last week, I had a young 18-year-old. I was sharing with somebody out there, and they are using marijuana. And when they were brought by the parent, they looked at me and told me, Doc, you know, none of my friends has been affected by the marijuana. And you're telling me to read, and I read it can cause psychosis later, but none of my friends, we have been using, even in class, because they have been using the pen, even in class, none has been affected. And when they get self-aware, who am I? At what stage of life am I at? They are able to understand. Am I coming from a family which can give me predisposition? Am I coming from a state where it can perpetuate my use of drugs? And therefore, self-awareness is very critical. And for the youth to know that every person is affected by drugs as an individual. Coping skills, we are having so many stressors in our society, and therefore I use coping skills. I train them on coping skills. Some of them in rural Kenya cannot even afford a meal. The parents cannot afford to pay their school fees. And so they were telling me, when we are sent away from school, we go join the people who are chewing cat out there. We go and join the illicit brew dance, and we continue to do it. And therefore, I use coping skills to empower them to know that they can cope with the life stressors without using drugs. Problem solving, they need to think about, if my parents cannot afford school fees, what else can I do? And some of the activities we were having with these students is, I remember two who I even met later after they completed their high school. If parents cannot afford school fees, what else can you do? And two of them decided, because I used to give them, to provoke them to think about how they can resolve their problems. We can go to the school, ask the school to give us some tasks to do. And the two boys were taught to be splitting wood. The Kenyans, you know how we cook in our high schools, to split wood. And as they split wood every morning and every evening, that payment was going to their school fees, and therefore they did not have to stay out of school and start using drugs. And the other skill I was using was decision making. I think my friend here has talked about it from Blue Cross, where what decision do you make when you're with your peers? Are you influenced? Is your self-esteem good enough for you to say no? And also the drug refusal skills. And therefore, I did the baseline, and the baseline was, the baseline was compared to the headline after 6 months. Theirs was a 1 year, mine was a 6 months. And you'll find that as I trained the skills, I was using instructions, I was using demonstration, I had my team, role plays. If somebody comes and they are hiding in the pocket, and in class they come and share with you, how do you respond to that? There was extended practice, because we cannot just train and leave them. And the extended practice for three months was enhanced by group activities. And also I attached each of the students who are using substance to an accountability partner, that every morning they had to come to school and ask one another. If it was a day school, they had to come over after the weekend and ask one another, did you use any drugs? What did you do with yourself? And that way I saw the life skills enhanced and the students changing. You will find that the data I collected both at baseline and headline, I used the Global School-Based Health Survey questionnaire. It's a WHO tool. And then, of course, I had the socio-demographic questionnaire. The life skills manual that I used, it was a combination. All of us know about DARE. We all know about Botvin life skills. And also, I borrowed to contextualize it from the KICD curriculum, and then I gave it to a panel of experts to validate. Most of the students were between 16 to 18 years of age. That is the age normally, especially in the rural areas for Form 2s and Form 3s. The gender, of course, we had fewer females in the high schools, in the rural high schools that I went to, and we know the problem of rural girls in Kenya going to school, and that's why the number of the females was less than the males. I know this is a congested slide that you may not be able to see well, but this is simply showing us was what I did after 6 months. Was there any statistically significant change that was observed? And yes, in all the substances that the tool was measuring, and remember I was measuring lifetime use and current use. When it came to current use, it was 30 days, and the lifetime use was extended from when the person started using the drugs. And therefore, with all the drugs, I know you may not be able to read from the screens, from tobacco, whether it was being smoked or the smokeless tobacco, we know now there's a lot of smokeless tobacco, whether it was alcohol or other drugs. Some of them confessed to be polydrug users, whether they were using 2 or 3. The overall substance use for the experimental group moved from 44.1% at baseline to 20.5% at headline. That is after 6 months. And you find that for the control group, there was no intervention done. I just left the schools to continue with the normal life skills curriculum from KICD. And you can see that at baseline, the students had 51.6% substance use, and at the end of 6 months, they had 64.4%. I went ahead and analyzed how were the changes. Was there any change in smoking? Were there those who stopped smoking, or are there those who started smoking? And in both groups, there were few who had started smoking, and there were those who had stopped smoking. But overall, I found that it was statistically significant that those in the experimental group, higher numbers stopped smoking. Very few started smoking within the 6 months. And when it came to all the other drugs, I don't have to go one by one. And therefore, the post-intervention analysis showed a significant difference in using all substances between the groups, the experimental and the control group, implying that intervention had a protective effect on all substances for those in the experimental group. And therefore, life skills enhancement was effective in reducing, and not just reducing, and also stopping substance use among the participants in the experimental group. And therefore, you will find that I looked at I used the odds ratio, and 70% of the ones in the experimental group were less likely to use any form of tobacco, whether it was smoked or smokeless. 64% were less likely to use alcohol, and 86% were less likely to use any drugs. And overall, within the 6 months, there was 86% less likelihood of using any substance for the participants in the experimental group as compared to those who were in the control group. And therefore, I concluded that life skills, when enhanced and directed, not being generic, towards substance use prevention, are effective in empowering the adolescents. Because what happens is that I saw adolescents develop safe and healthy behavior when they understood who they were, when they understood that it's not always okay to follow the crowd and say yes, they can say no. When they understood that coping skills are very critical in a stressful environment. And therefore, instead of self-medicating, they understood that they can be able to say no. And therefore, there is need for all of us. And as we talk about Africa and Asia, there is therefore a need to rethink substance use prevention strategies among adolescents and shift our focus from sometimes fear-arousing information-based strategies. I was just making a joke to one of the groups who are displaying out here, and I was telling them, you know, that smoking, you know, that picture of the effects of cigarette. And I discovered as I worked with the adolescents, they are not moved by such things because they imagine that we are just fear-provoking. And therefore, we need to rethink again and come up with prevention strategies which are practical and individually driven, and life skills acquisition. The 5 life skills that I used, I can confess and tell you that we need to really enhance those life skills and gear them towards substance use. What challenges are we likely to face if we don't use life skills? You know, before, when we were using fear-provoking strategies, you thought that you would see your child smoke. You thought you would smell the smell of cannabis because cannabis has become a gateway substance now in our environment. But now they have come up, the younger generation, the adolescents have come up with strategies or ways of using substances that you'll not be able to know that they are using. And therefore, we need to know, like we were told in the morning, 6-year-olds are using substances. We need to know that there is early initiation to holy drug use. And this is becoming a very common phenomenon in the early ages and among the adolescents. We are having new product emergence. We are having the nicotine pouches. We are having the flavored vapes. We are having the NNETPs. And therefore, we know that we cannot handle things as usual. We need to empower individuals, not to use fear-provoking strategies. We know that there are discrete ways, especially with cannabis, which is a major drug being misused. There is edibles, the teas, the juices, and we saw I think Dr. Sabet is the one who showed us there are vapes and all this. And this boy I talked about, he was telling me he used pen. And so when the teacher is teaching, he's just taking his cannabis and the teacher will not know. For alcohol now, we know, even with the policies that we have in our government, we may not be able to criminalize these people as they continue to get addicted because they have come up with other methods like the new administration methods of soaking and vaporizing even alcohol. And also, we need to think about the digital marketing. It has been disguised as different packaging, and the adolescents are able to, to get these things even at our own roofs. When you're there thinking, because many times we say that, lack of supervision, inference from the environment, but we need to empower the person so that even when there is no supervision, they are not going to the digital space. And that has become a new platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Charity. That was a wonderful presentation, and it touched my heart because I'm very passionate about tobacco control. Most of us do not give attention to alcohol and tobacco, saying that those are legal drugs. So we kind of sideline them and want to focus on something else. But she's highlighted how important it is for us to talk about tobacco control, alcohol control, and as well as the other drug controls. Right. So once again, please give her a round of applause. Our next presenter, Ms. Maveline Atieno, is going to talk about smart, safe, and supported. S times 3. No, I want to say S times 3. All right, so she's calling it the S cubed. Reimagining campus health, evidence-based, youth-centered approaches to substance use prevention, treatment, support, and policy reform in universities and college. Ms. Madeline Atieno, the stage is now yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madeline Atieno, and I chair Students for Sensible Drug Policy. It's a student organization. I'm so happy to be here. First, I want to thank Afri-Asia for giving me this opportunity, and thank you all for coming. So today I want to share with you a program called Safe, Smart, and Supported. It's an initiative that is designed to reimagine campus health through evidence-based, youth-centered substance use prevention, treatment, and policy reform in higher learning institutions. These include colleges, universities, and TVETs. Just a minute. Okay, apologies for that. So our theme is prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and policy reform. First, I would like to take you through the reality on Kenyan campuses. As we all know, substance use has become very rampant in Kenyan universities. And what is changing is statistics, consequences, patterns, and to our realization, most common used drugs are alcohol, cannabis, and tobacco. But there are newly formed trends of people using pills. For those who can't afford to buy pills like LSD and MDMA, they have opted for other pills. They usually go and buy them from the chemist, take some Sprite bottle, put it inside, and they use it to actually get high. And this has become very, very rampant. When you look at NACADA statistics, when you look at NACADA's statistics that was released this year on February, 1 in 2 students in higher learning institutions have used drugs at least once in their life. 40% have tried alcohol, 20% tobacco, and 18% have tried cannabis. These 3 drugs are first, are easily accessible. Second, they are quite affordable, meaning a lot of students will be able to afford them, buy them, and use them. And when you look at the percentage on alcohol, it's 40%. This is almost half of the population. And I think it's high time we find a solution to all these problems. And one of the most alarming issues is mental health. Because when you look at the statistics, 9% suffer from mental health issues, which is linked to drug and substance use prevention. But what are the institutions doing about this issue? Because I think for us to tackle this issue, it has to begin with the institution first. And to our realization, we came to realize that there's a gap when it comes to tackling substance use in universities. Because a lot of people focus on prevention, which is okay. I advocate for prevention. We have to invest on prevention. But there's a gap missing. We have students who are already using drugs. What are we going to do about them? Are we just going to let them perish? We have to find a solution to help them. And to my realization, a lot of students are missing a clear pathway to recovery. And this is where the S cubed program will come in. So it's called the S cubed program. It stands for safe, smart, and supported. Our vision is to transform campus health through public health-based youth-led strategies, and our mission is to fill the gap. Our mission is to fill the gap. While prevention messages exist, there is no support and clear pathway for students who are already using drugs. On S-Cube has 3 focus areas. The first pillar is prevention. The second pillar is harm reduction. The third pillar is treatment access. And the fourth pillar is policy reform. Okay, let's talk about the first pillar, prevention. I think we have heard about prevention since morning. And prevention is a very important message. We started hearing about prevention since we were in primary school. My only concern comes in how the message about prevention is being accompanied with so much fear. For example, when we were younger, when we were in primary school, most of the time when we were talking about students using drugs in literature or in Fasihi, they usually used to draw pictures of shaggy boys with unkempt hair, dirty shoes. Those are the images that were being given of students who are using drugs. And when you look at Fasihi or literature, it's always about students who go to higher learning education, lose their focus, started doing drugs, end up dropping out of school. Why don't we start getting more messages on hope? Why don't we get more messages on recovery? Why don't we give our students stories of hope and recovery? So my first concern is prevention, and I think we should. Sorry for that. Okay. Oh, sorry for that. Let me continue. So the idea on prevention through education is many prevention programs don't make a lot of progress when it comes to young people. This is because they rely on fear-based lectures, and students don't mostly respond to fear-based lectures. Students mostly respond to relevance. So if you package the message of prevention with so much fear, it brings a lot of stigma, and students often tend to shy away from all this. So what I'm proposing here is prevention should be done through an interactive way, relatable, educational way, instead of one-time lectures. We have social media, we can use it to advantage. Why don't we come up with really cool hashtags that we can be able to share on our social media platform? Why don't we come up with trends on TikTok? Because a lot of young people nowadays are on TikTok, are on Instagram and WhatsApp. We can actually come up with a better way of making young people interact, while at the same time still passing the message on prevention. We have cool tools. We can have peer talks, we can have art, we can have competitions, we can let them come up with ideas, and then integrate prevention into campus wellness program. I can give a good example at the University of Nairobi. We have a wellness program, and we also have free counseling. But most of the time, students who use drugs tend to fear going to those places because maybe they fear they will not get the support they need, or rather they have faced stigma so much in their lives, and we need to help them get through this. The second pillar is harm reduction and treatment access. I'm a big supporter of harm reduction. One thing with drug use, especially for students who have already used drugs before and are trying to get their way through recovery, harm reduction will be the easiest way to get them through it. We can establish campus wellness hubs or peer-led support centers where they can come, talk about drugs, find solutions on how they can better their lives. We can train staff and peer mentors to identify early signs. We had an incident at the University of Nairobi some time back where one of the students, she was a girl, she had a lot of alcohol intake. So when she was taken to the dispensary, she was told, we'll say it in Kiswahili, unakunywa pombe ni nani atakuoa na wewe ni msichana. That means who will marry you when you are drinking alcohol. This shows the kind of stigma a lot of students go through, and the reason why they can't open up and find help. And also build referral systems to local clinics and ensure confidentiality and dignity for students seeking help. The fourth pillar will be youth-led policy research. We want to involve students in policy design and review. We don't want to be just the recipient. We also want to be there through the design. Encourage research on youth drug use trend, because we are the people on the ground. We are the one interacting with young people. And I think it will be easier for us to identify the patterns, the most repeated patterns, the most common use drugs. And also, the third point is promote dialogue between students, universities, and you can bring board organizations such as NACADA, such as Blue Cross, and find a solution to all this. The fourth will be ground intervention in lived experiences. I think we need to have more people come, speak about their progress and their way to recovery. It will be really helpful, especially for students who are already using drugs. From global inspiration to local action, we should learn from harm reduction models in Europe and Asia, adapt them to Kenya's cultural institutional realities, and also we can build Afro-Asia knowledge exchange for campus well-being. These are the expected outcomes. We'll have reduced number of stigma and punitive actions. At the university, when a student is caught using cannabis, especially in the residence, most of the time they are being sent out of the residence. When you send a student out of the residence because they were using cannabis, and most probably they don't have a place to go and stay, they will end up using drugs even more. So I think we should be more gentle and understand. Instead of sending them outside, we should find a referral system and assist them. The second point will be increase access to mental health and support services. Mental health is really big. A lot of people are suffering from mental health, especially young people in the universities. The third point is stronger student peer networks. We need as much student networks as possible. The fourth point will be improved academic performance and well-being, and also policy reforms at institution and national level. This is call to action. We like universities to adopt compassionate, health-centered policies. NACADA and other institutions can also support youth-led initiatives, finding them, hosting activities in schools. Society and donors can also help to find prevention and advocacy, and students can be peer champions of change. Being smart also means being safe and supported. Thank you so much.
Have we learned something new? Yes. What have we learned? S cubed or S times 3? S cubed. So you were all awake. I was the only one sleeping, right? So now I'm going to ask our 3 presenters to come on stage so we can have a short question and answer session before we wrap up. I know the afternoon is getting tiring. I can see it. Just a few more minutes. Hold on, just a few more minutes. Is that okay? If you're willing to hold on, can I see a smile on your face? Come on. Thank you. Those are beautiful smiles. All right, so my first question, Mr. Don Paul, is to you. What inspired your work on youth empowerment and drug prevention through life skills education in Kenyan schools?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, the same way I was presenting, I said when we started, our most point of inspiration was coming from how the situation was worsening. The increasing alcohol consumption and the World Drug reports on how alcohol is bad in the community, how people have been dying. Another thing that also inspired us was we had a belief that life skills education will empower youths, will create youth that can change agents in the community. But also another thing that also really empowered us to start working on LS in schools, that we believe that this model
could work best for us in informal settlements, because by then it was not there. And we really stand out that it is working for us, and a number of people are trying to emulate what we do, and we really try to help them to come up also to be champions in this field.
Thank you for that. Now, let me ask, because you've worked in the informal settings, are you able to share examples of these life skill programs that are transforming the attitudes towards substance abuse and mental health? And maybe if there are any challenges and you're able to address them.
Okay. When we talk about examples how we work on this, we have done life skills in the community, and we are seeing now parents also getting involved. Parents are now building interest in helping their children. If you see the curriculum that we're having in the country, you'll find that learning is at school and less learning is at home. But our model is both. There's learning at school and also learning in the living space. We call it a child-to-child approach, where children are able to learn in school, but whatever they have learned in school, through our facilitators, they again take it to the parents, so that we call it linking learning with life. So they are able now to go and do it at home and bring it, and we document them in the resource center. But again also, through our base camps also, we realized that the school hours during holidays, like now we are going to Christmas holidays, the schools will not be there. So we have an extended model where these children that were in schools are now able to be in the base camps, in the safe spaces, where we'll also take them through life skills like decision making, resilience building, so that it is a continuous thing, so that we don't leave a gap. So that's somehow how we work with it. But when you talk about challenges, just like the other presenters before us, the first challenge is on government. How government is enforcing the laws that we have. How the government is supporting the goodwill from the government in supporting these laws that we have. You have corruption is coming up. You find that the law stipulates very clearly when the time should close. Somebody is not closing because maybe somebody big up there. Another challenge that we are really having, and I did a paper on that, is the alcohol industry interference, where you find alcohol industry is posing as, can I call it the black Jesus, so that people see the Jesus but it's not the truth. So I did a paper where I was countering what they have said. You find them saying that we are giving out water, but the same water they are using to kill the same people they are giving that water. So we did a paper to counter what they were having. So there's a lot of deception from the alcohol industry. Just the last challenge that we have also experienced is on caregiver sessions. You find sometimes when we have caregiver sessions where we want to train parents on good parenting, on effects of alcohol and drugs abuse, they don't turn up. Very few of them turn up. So we are now engaging on a number of community outreaches. That's why we have brought also in the churches, because everybody is in a church. So we are trying to also bring them, so that if we don't hit the nail on the head using the other method, we are at least able to even start from the other side of the nail. So we really hope that our model, even though there are challenges, we really hope that through our model, we are going to be able to change the societies, and also just try to change the story that I narrated to you that I experienced last year.
Thank you for answering that. I think it's really beautiful that we just don't work with one intervention. You have several different interventions. And one other thing that I picked up from your answer is, it's really nice that you're saying that you pass the message to the children who then take it to the parents. Most of the times we're looking at how do we move from parent to children, and here you're talking about children to parents. So that's a very beautiful thing. Congratulations.
More of a bottom up.
Yes. Bottom up or streaming down, whatever it is that works.
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Yes, please.
You're talking about curriculum. Are you going to the national governments or are you going to the private schools? Because I think there's a problem at the ministerial level, whereby you need to be given certification to go to private schools. Has there been a challenge there to have the money?
You know, the challenge that comes in is when you don't use that right procedure of getting it. So if you want to work in schools, you have to get authority from NACADA first. So you use this letter from NACADA, engage the ministry officials. So after we had got the approval from NACADA to work in these schools, we went now to the county directors of education. In fact, when we started, we were not engaging them even with our evaluation reports. Nowadays, when we go to visit them yearly, we engage them with what we are doing. So after discussing with them, they also give you authorization. This authorization, you can use it now to go to sub-county. Remember, that's the county. Now you go to sub-county. Then you map the schools you want to work in. You take those schools to the sub-county director of education. Then he will write you a specific, school-specific authorization. Work in this school, work in this school. So you don't end up working alone. That's why you find if you work with the NACADA, you work with the ministry, and you work with other stakeholders, then it becomes easier than if you just bump into a school with your books and you want to do this happen. It can't happen that way. So we try to work with them. And now we are even bringing in the child department, the child services, the child officers, to also join us in whatever we are doing so that we expand our reach. So it depends with how you follow it. You take the wrong step, you lose it.
Thank you. I'm hearing that it's very important for us to follow the right protocol so that we do the right thing by our audience, which are the young people. Now, there's an announcement from the technical team. We all love pictures, and our pictures are being uploaded. So on the screens, there's a QR code. You can sign it where you can receive your pictures. Now, as I continue with the questions, Dr. Charity, allow me to ask you, you've talked about life skills. Which life skills have proven to be the most effective as you did your research?
Thank you. With my research, I think the top on the list was self-awareness. And even as a psychotherapist, I've discovered when an adolescent gets to understand who they are using a biopsychosocial model of awareness, they are able to think about it. With adolescents, I tell them, go read about the effect of each drug that you're taking on your brain. How will it affect you in the future? Where are you coming from? What is likely to happen to you? So self-awareness is top on the list. The other one that I've learned that is really helping adolescents is when it comes to drug refusal skills. Because I train them on how to say an outright no, how to be in an environment where they can excuse themselves, and I will train them on relaxation and grounding skills, and therefore they can move away from where everybody is using substance and be able to move away. And delayed gratification. You know, sometimes I ask them, if right now as you're seated here with me, you feel so hungry, do you just run and go and get something to eat? You can delay gratification, and that is one of the refusal skills. And of course, problem solving is my number 3. Because you see, life is full of challenges. Can you think of a way, however little it is, to solve a problem that you have? Whether it's sickness, whether it's lack, whether it's parents who have neglected you, or there are problems at home. So problem solving is number 3.
Thank you for that. It's very important for us to identify these life skills because her research has shown that these are very effective. So when we ask her which life skills in particular, and she's able to share with us, I think that's very wonderful. One more question for you, Dr. Charity. How does your work align with the Kenya's competency-based curriculum? And, now that we're talking about a place where we can offer recommendations, what recommendation would you give for scaling the life skill-based prevention programs? Not just at one level, but nationally.
Okay, thank you. Those who are Kenyans know that we are having the new curriculum, which is competency-based education curriculum. And I think if we all have looked at that curriculum, it talks about knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And there are specific life skills that are being given to the students. we are moving away from rote learning, just content-based learning, to skills and attitudes-based learning. And therefore, as I talk about life skills, one of the recommendations I would make is let's not have them being taught as a generic curriculum. We cannot just say, develop resilience. They need to be tailored towards specific challenges that affect the young people or the children, because we start from the basic education and we move on. And therefore, for me, I would recommend, like for substance use prevention, they should be tailored towards substance use. And as the ministry or the curriculum developers at KICD are doing that, they need to tailor such that if we are training on substance use prevention or, other areas that an adolescent or a child needs to develop in, then we are specifically dealing with that, not just generic. Yeah.
Thank you for that response, Dr. Charity. I hope there's somebody listening who is able to make sure that these recommendations are taken into place. Now, for our next, Miss Mavlin, are you ready for my questions? Very ready. All right. So you've talked about a new model, something that we've not heard of before.
Yes.
Please allow me to ask you what motivated you to create this model, and again, how does it differ from the traditional campus drug prevention programs that we usually hear of?
S-Cubed was motivated by a very simple question. During one of our prevention awareness campaign at the university, one of the students stood up and asked us, what about us who are already using drugs? Where can we go and get help without judgment? And that's when we realized there's a gap that need to be filled, and it need to be filled now, because we can't keep on concentrating on students who are not using and leave those who are already using behind. So how S-Cubed is different from the other traditional measures is, the traditional measures most of the times is the messages of prevention is being packed and escorted with so much fear and judgment, just like the way I said, from literature, the pictures that they used to show us, the story they used to tell us, how school handles people who uses drugs. If a student is caught smoking marijuana today, you're being sent out of the residence. No one wants to listen to you. So S-Cube will offer a message that is non-judgmental and youth-friendly. And also, the traditional way of awareness, they usually use the lecture form, kind of how to pass the message. They usually use the lecture form, but ours is different because we let students sit together, talk about what they are going through, and we can help them get a solution.
Thank you. Now, you've talked about having our university campuses smart, safe, and supported. Are there any policies or maybe some peer support structures that have proven to be the most effective in this?
Yes. There's the health center drug policy. So instead of punishment and disciplinary, I think we should opt to, when a student is caught using drug, instead of punishing them, I think they should be referred to somewhere where they can get help.
Thank you for that.
You're
now,
welcome.
I'm just going to ask, yes, just a moment. I will ask, in fact, if you're okay, we can take one question each. Is that okay? All right. So before we get to the questions, I'm still going to insist, once we are finished with this, please take a minute to look at the posters that we have at the back. These posters carry a lot of information, much more than probably what was presented here. So please take a moment and have a look at those posters. I now invite you to ask the panelists questions. So we'll just take one question each because of time. Yes, madam?
So my question goes to Miss Henry. And well, being a student for some time, I used to imagine that there are minimal resources that we have when it comes to mental wellness. Now, having practiced at the university for some time, my counselor, then I note we actually have resources.
Okay, thank you so much. About the first question, I think we should introduce referral links. This is where referral links come. Because if we have them speaking as peer, they can come to people like you said, counselors, and they can be referred to professionals who can help them. What was the second question again?
My second question.
Overflow of information.
Okay, the overflow of information and self-diagnosis, I think we need again to educate the masses to know that unless one is diagnosed by a professional, clinical psychologists, we are here, and we have other psychologists who have been trained. There are standardized tests that we use, and therefore people should not just use the information that is on media and wherever else on the internet, because that is where we are having a problem. People are using cannabis because they say, I am having this condition, and they self-label. So we need to psychoeducate people, especially the young people at the university. They come to my clinic and they already tell me I'm bipolar. And the question is, how are you diagnosed? You know, my husband is narcissistic. Who diagnosed him? And they will say, I read. Those are labels, self-diagnosis and diagnosing others. We need the professionals like the clinical psychologists because we have the tools to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Charity. Now, I'm going to be a little bit biased here. Please allow me. I'm going to ask Zakaria to ask his question. And the reason why I'm going to let him to do that is because it's a matter of pride to me. When Zakaria was doing his bachelor's degree, I was his supervisor. And today he comes and tells me he's completing his master's degree. So I'm very proud of that. Zakaria, please.
Thank you. I'm very proud also. I think my also part of the lectures in the university. I'm also proud for her to see. I have a comment and a question at the same time. And I think it will go both of you, the charity and be very sorry for what I can follow up. In Kenya, actually, what I noticed when Dr. Kelvin actually today was saying 95% of people who don't use any drug tend to be free from drug before age 21. But I see, according to, I haven't done any research with this, but according to what I view in campus, it's vice versa. And a child or a teenager or a youth comes to university, totally different. But he learns, alcohol use or any other substance use in university. And I feel like the system is designed in a way that youth are looking for drugs as a coping mechanism. And the others actually are using it for fun or through peer pressure. So I am wondering, because there's some issues like issue to do with the course design or not finishing the university coursework, issue to do with supplementary, there is actually the system is designed to stress the student how it looks, especially at the public university. So how are you, tailoring those? Especially some of them needs more than just counseling. They need to be involved. It's issue to do with finance, issue to do with the way you say people kick out of the house or the hostels. And by new, these are also the generations. The way my brother was saying, we did the bottom up of the parenting. The way it's going right now, no one is teaching this generation parenting, and they will be parenting the next decade to come. And you see, the system is going as this the coping skills for them. How is there any way to criteria use those who are using it for fun, those who are using the system designed for real life because of other coping skills?
Thank you for that question. I think it begins with each one of us because we are having a generation that is living in the information age. And what that has done, although we have embraced technology and it is very good for our survival, it's also being misused. And therefore, when we see university students, they are joining the crowd is because that is the thing that is trending. And therefore, psychoeducation, you've talked about coping skills, and we will never miss to have problems in the environment, like I said. And therefore, problem solving skills and coping mechanisms, we need to all take our place. And for those who are in treatment centers, I think I want to encourage all of us, let's empower people with life skills so that when they leave, probably the issue was finances, they come, you rehabilitate them, they get out there, they get married, it becomes a marital issue. How do they move from that financial condition to now a marital issue? I think we are simply talking about psychoeducating people. And in social psychology, we know that crowd psychology or mob psychology is very critical, what we call the peer pressure. And we need to train people on being individuals than being a crowd. I don't know whether I've answered, and I don't know whether she needs to add something. Yeah, but it's a major issue. And that's why those of us who are in the universities, immediately the students come, because there are those who will come from very good backgrounds. They've never tasted alcohol or any drug, but when they come, because everybody is doing it, I need to belong there. But we need to help people be individuals and be able to say no, even when the whole world is doing it.
Thank you very much. Last question. Now, those hands are very many. How am I supposed to be fair? That's a difficult question. Can we take one from the back then? Is that okay? Yes, sir. Please.
Thank you. My name is Samson Arunga. I am coming from Tanzania, and I'm working with the Tanganyika Community. It's an association that helps young adults who are using substances to recover life. As well as I'm recovering addict with 14 years police since they stopped using.
Allow me to respond very fast. You're talking about your parents having been imbalanced and therefore they did not manage to give you very good care as a child. We all know what we call adverse childhood experiences. They are very critical, and all of us who are dealing with substance users, we need to take history of adverse childhood experiences that they went through, because that may have been the predisposing factors. And so when anything else happens, like you're saying, you went through a relationship breakup, that just becomes a precipitating factor. And until you heal from that, it can also be a perpetuating factor. And that makes somebody continue to use. You have asked a question, is there a way we can be able to test? Yes, we have tools that can be used to test your emotional levels. We have several tools that we use. I'm a clinical psychologist, that's why I'm saying that with a lot of confidence. Now, in our hospitals, and I think Aga Khan Hospital is one of those that are having what we call the fMRI, we may not be able to check the chemicals per se, but we are also able to check the brain areas that are being affected. And therefore, with improved technology, we are improving the diagnosis. Like he is saying, the hardest thing about treatment of mental health issues is because we rely on symptoms. But as we advance in technology, we are getting to get, images that can help us know which part of the brain is affected. And when we get to know the part of the brain that is affected, we are able to tell what does this part control. If it controls this emotion or it controls something else, what would have happened? But the ACEs are very critical. And we always say a child brought up by an emotionally destabilized parent has a 4% likelihood of becoming emotionally destabilized. So we can even check things like attachment style, the adult attachment style, because if you are not securely attached to your parents because they were going through emotional upheavals, most probably you have one of the insecure attachment styles. And as professionals, we are able to help such people. And recently we did a study with one of my students, and we were able to link the ACEs. I mean, we also tested, do you go through the adverse childhood experiences? We can measure that and then see the severity of the ACEs and the patterns of substance use. We used that in some of the rehabilitation centers in one of the counties called Kiambu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, because of time, we cannot take any more questions, but they are here. They're going to be here tomorrow as well. Please make use of that opportunity, engage with them, ask them questions, get your comments, and that way we can be able to grow together. Now, Kenya is a democracy, and I have a question for the audience. Not for you, for the audience. Have they done a good job? I'm not convinced. Have they done a good job? Do they deserve an award? Do they? All right, so the audience has spoken. If they say no, I would have no option, but they said yes. So I'm going to ask Ms. Nkatha Mwenda from our secretariat to come and present the certificate to our wonderful panelists. Should we start with the ladies or with the gentleman? Democracy wins in this country. Boy child. All right. So the audience has spoken. Mr. Don Paul Odhiambo, let's give him a clap. Great. congratulations, Mr. Don Paul, on the wonderful presentation. And then now we go to seniority, right? We go with the older people, right? Seniority in terms of age or experience? Dr. Charity. And now to the lady who brought us a new model, the S cubed, Miss Maveline Atieno. Thank you very much, Ms. Nkatha, for awarding them. Thank you very much to our panelists. Now, did we learn something? I'm not convinced, honestly. Did we learn something? I did. I learned a lot. I learned that I don't have to say S3, I have to say S cubed. So that's something that's going to stick in my mind. And then I also learned that I would like to go to visit Blue Cross in Kisumu because they're doing a wonderful job. I also learned that Dr. Charity is a psychotherapist. She could be my role model because I'm a psychologist too. If you learned that, that's good enough for you, but I learned it, right? And then the last thing I learned is that we have to focus on the youth. Statistics have shown, the research is done by the two wonderful presenters and the one who's giving us a new model. This has just made it very clear to all of us that we need to focus on the youth, right? So the prevention aspect is probably the most important conversation of this summit. As you can see, we're talking about drug prevention and treatment. So if you're taking anything home from this particular session, may it be that you sitting here also have to be a prevention advocate. Is that okay? Yes, lady, I can see your hand is up. Yes, please. Teach me and I might learn. Show me and I might understand. Involve me and I will follow. Thank you very much. Let's give her a hand. It's wonderful to see the passion of prevention advocates coming throughout, right? Are you excited to be a prevention advocate? Yes. Perfect. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to our wonderful presenters. Thank you very much for coming to this presentation. Now we will break from this presentation and move on to the next part of the program, which will be a plenary. Thank you very much. I mean, you could just stand and make sure there's blood flowing to your legs. Just walk around for a minute.